Two dudes.
So this is first episode of Two Dudes, Two Photographers Drinking Coffee. So this is gonna be like Jerry Seinfeld. Was it comedians in cars?
Yeah.
Was this
Comedians in cars getting coffee. I hope.
Okay, photographers getting coffee. No, that's not that. Oh,
Photographers talking
this-
shit.
photographers talking shit over espressos.
Indeed.
So the double shot, photography fun. That's pretty good. The show will be called the Double Shot.
Yeah, it sounds like porn.
So first episode of the Double Shot with my buddy Oggs at Oggsy. Oliver, we go back way back. And there's my buddy Big Head Taco photobombing us.
Hey.
So we're here in Bangkok, and you told me last night that you're kind of having some sort of existential crisis with photography. Tell us more about that.
I just think, and I have for a long time, that photography is moving away from being a fine art and it's becoming a performance art. I mean, this is an example of it right here. You know, you spend more time looking at people talking about photography, looking at people taking photography than actual photographs themselves. You know, I think photography is kind of like holding up a frame to the world and then experiencing it using that frame, and people enjoy that, and that's actually what photography is becoming. It's more about the experience of photography rather than the experience of looking at photographs.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's a thing. I'm not taking like a philosophical point yet before you get all philosophical.
Well, tell us about so performance art. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
You taught a course at the Tate.
Yes.
So for those of you guys who don't know, Tate is like the biggest, one of the most legitimate art spaces in the world in London. You taught a course on selfies.
Yes.
And you had this performance art installation. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think, early days of mobile photography, so we're talking 2008, people really didn't think photographically, you know, and in the last few years, because people always carry these phones with them, they have to think photographically. You know, we don't talk about phones in terms of call quality. We talk about phones in terms of camera quality. You know, that's an obvious indicator that people are now thinking visually. What I liked to do about the selfie school was that it was the stupidest idea I could have. And it works because people want to have an excuse to experience selfies. Now, that's not to say that people are narcissistic and they care about themselves and they don't want to do anything.
Yep.
You know, photographically serious, you know, because serious photographers think that a selfie is not a thing. But it's a beginning, you know, it's a start, it's a way for people to start to understand how cameras work, particularly if they can take a decent selfie, or if they start to think about how a selfie works, then they can start to think about how the camera works on other people as well. So it's a bit of a gateway drug, really, to photography, I think.
Well, I think selfies are really interesting. Like I'm just thinking out loud right now is that I know a lot of people who actually have a lot of self-confidence issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I could imagine feeling more comfortable shooting a selfie could actually be a good way to build up your self-confidence.
I think it's a way to address it. It's fascinating. So what I did at the table was I created a space where people could take selfies, and then they could present those selfies to a panel of 3 judges. So they would walk. I'm going to do like that.
Yeah, okay.
They would walk down a little gauntlet, okay, and there was lights at in this gauntlet here.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would present the selfie to the judges, and there was 3 judges sitting in a panel here. There we go.
Yeah, okay.
And this person would present the selfie to them, and there was a big screen up here, which was actually showing the selfie which was being presented. So the crowd of, there was about 10,000 people.
10,000
who
people
came through the Tate that evening for this series of events, and there was the 3 judges and the 1 person presenting the selfie. And the way that it worked was it kind of created a bit of tension, you know, a bit of uncertainty about what was going on, because they weren't involved in the process, but people don't get judgment on their images straight away. Well, they do more now with Instagram, okay? But to actually present your selfie physically to somebody else and have somebody read into the selfie and ask you questions about it is a very holistic experience. You know, it really makes you look at yourself in a different way, makes you look at your own work, you know, images in a different way, and it doesn't mean that the work is important. It just means that looking is important, you know, and sharing.
Yeah. So thinking about looking and sharing, do you think there's an overabundance of one or the other? So do people? So I would think people don't look enough, but we share too much. Does that make sense?
I think so. I
Or
think,
what's your take?
but I think that I think it's actually very hard to understand an image.
Understand the image.
Yeah, and so we look at a lot of images to create a kind of a framework to then base our understanding of single images. You
Yeah.
know, I think that's what's been great about Instagram is that it's provided me with a context for images, good, bad, whatever. Whereas I think it's still very hard to understand an image, and that's why I really liked the interactive part of the selfie score, because people were faced with a single image and had to focus on that single image. So and then deep dive into questions around that, rather than just thumb up, and scroll through.
What kind of images are you trying to make?
Still just good images. I think it's always been about an understanding of what is a quality image. Not that I always take them, but everyone aspires. I mean, this is what this event here is about. It's about aspiration to take high quality photography, and whatever that is. I think that meaningful, authentic images can be quite hard to do. Meaningful, authentic images. And that's going to be different for everyone. So I judge images very differently nowadays. I mean, if I see a bad image, I'll say I don't really get it, or I don't think it's a great image. But it doesn't matter. I don't feel bad about taking bad photos. In fact, I feel really good about it.
Why?
Because the more bad photos you take, the more good photos you take. That's what mobile gave me, was the fact that I took almost hundreds of thousands of really, really bad photographs with an iPhone 3GS initially, and that became my basis for not making those mistakes again, or at least understanding what I needed to do to avoid those mistakes. Or it doesn't necessarily translate to high quality after that, but you start to know what to avoid. You've got to learn from your mistakes.
So, how old are you now?
34.
34? How old were you when you started photography?
So I would have been about 25, 26. But this is like early days of mobile photography.
Okay.
We're talking 2000.
So
2008,
if you're talking to...
Oh no, it's going back further. No, 2000.
Okay, so you're like 25, 26?
Yeah.
So if you went back to your 25, 26-year-old self, except it's
Yeah.
today, and you gave your 25, 26-year-old self an iPhone 7 Plus or an iPhone, what advice would you give your 25, 26-year-old self?
Not a lot, actually. I mean, I think it was good to go in not knowing, not feel, because once you start to produce a large body of work, once you start to shoot a lot, particularly street photography, you start seeing the same images, you start seeing the same kind of tropes, and in the same situations, you'll see the same layering. Now, it's great to get an incredible shot, but I think what's good to do is to get that, understand what is a good image, aesthetically, and compositionally, and but I think now is the time, and I needed to go through all that, so I wouldn't tell my younger self this, but now is the time to start thinking conceptually. Now is the time to start looking at what is photography. Does it really matter?
Does it matter?
Does it really matter?
Does photography matter?
Well, I mean photography, the word.
Oh,
You see, this is the thing. I think everyone sees photography as very well defined. It's a thing with a frame around it, and therefore, if I say photography, you know what I mean. But I think it's more interesting to start looking at how people perceive things. And there's only one way you can learn about perception. That's through understanding your own perception, really, understanding your own ability to look at things. So as you were saying, before. And I think that you've got to learn that through doing. In my case, particularly, I wouldn't be able to read a book on it. I wouldn't be able to listen to somebody talk about it.
Yep.
I have to go take photos, take them again, go, you know what? I'm taking the same image. I'm still seeing really interesting images, but I don't have the drive to go and take that shot because I've taken it before. Now, what am I going to add? I'm going to prove to myself, maybe prove to another bunch of lovely people like yourself, I can still take that image. I can still get a good shot.
Yeah.
But, we're always kind of pushing ourselves to create high quality images. But, there's got to be something else to it in the end, And this is why I really like education. I would prefer to spend more time now teaching photography and talking about photography than actually going out and going, I got a shot. Like the hero shot.
Why do you like to teach?
I think it's fun. I think you get to you get to see photography again through somebody else's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You get to meet incredible people. I really like that teaching now compared to say sort of 5-6 years ago when I first started back in Australia, like the Australian Centre for Photography and places like that. And I had to sell myself as a mobile photography teacher at the time, which was interesting. I think people are very accepting now of photography. They understand the role that it plays in their lives, and they want to not just understand how to take photos, but what they should be taking and why. And so you end up talking in a very meaningful way. You also end up talking about Snapchat. You talk about Periscope, Facebook Live. I mean, the real-time imagery, and I mean, the decisive moment is now the decisive stream. You know what I mean? I coined a phrase, didn't I?
That's fucking good.
Did I?
Yeah, I think, okay.
Decisive stream.
The decisive stream, Oliver Lang, 2017.
Yeah, in Bangkok.
Yeah.
I heard it first.
That's pretty good, the decisive stream.
So the only problem is I don't have any reception here in Bangkok, so I didn't pick up a SIM. So I don't have a decisive stream. I need to go out and get a SIM card.
Can you have an undecisive stream?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's so interesting. You know, I love the fact that you can take a video of anything and people will find it interesting simply because, you know, a lot of people just don't want to be where they are. They want to escape through their phone. I mean, you guys are watching this now. Maybe you are in bed, on the toilet. Are you on the toilet? Look at myself. I should be looking at this. What are you doing? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to it. You know, you've really got to. You know, it's photography is not something which you do and then put aside easily. It has an effect on you. You know, I definitely see within the frames of an image. I see, because Instagram's shift to have 5:4 images. Now I shoot a lot of vertical street because it's going to take up a lot more real estate on a screen.
Yep.
You know, when you share it. Whereas previously I would have shot landscape because that was the style of, you know, all my heroes. You know, they were all shooting with the Leica.
You also think about it this way too, is that with the phone, the natural way to hold it is like this.
Exactly.
This is actually a lovely photo we have on this wallpaper.
Yeah,
So it actually
that is the take gallery.
So it's actually nice that it's actually a much more natural way of seeing the world, or assuming you're shooting with.
The problem is holding it at 7+, and I've got big hands, but that's not as secure as, you know, the iPhone 5, maybe even the 6.
Yeah.
But this is not as secure. It used to be smaller. It used to just fit into your hand like this.
Why do you like the Plus?
Definitely the two lenses.
The two lenses? Why do you like having the two lenses?
The main lens is really good. It's like
which one is the main one? Is that the smaller one?
No, that's the new one.
Okay, so which one is the?
So that one is the normal one.
Okay.
That's 28 millimeters, and the one there is around 56 millimeters. So basically, it's a just borderline portrait lens. Okay, which is what can be argued.
Yep.
But to shoot around 50 millimeters with a mobile phone has been like my dream.
Why?
It's just a natural eye perspective. It's so close to the eye. 50 millimeters is about as closest to what the eye sees. So
I thought it was like more 40 millimeter.
Well, also, the last one I heard, the last thing I saw was 50. But I mean, I've looked at the kind of eye aspect perception, sort of the F of the eye. I think it was around 50.
Oh really? Oh, okay.
But the good thing is that this lens just allows you to shoot very differently. Like, I've learnt shooting on 28 millimeters, and I've got a 35 millimeter lens on my Sony Alpha Live, you know, and then I've got this, and I just really enjoy shooting 50 millimeters. I think it's a very natural perspective. You know. I just think if I could stick to one lens, I would just shoot 50.
Oh really?
Yeah, I would just shoot a 50 f1.0. I really don't care. I just want a fixed focal thing. So, I mean, when I shoot, and I mean, we've covered this before, I think in another video, it's just that I would shoot essentially like without looking at the actual screen. So basically, I'm shooting, you know, almost instinctively, using it kind of like a knife rather than a gun. You know, you look down a gun, you know, this sort of way, but I prefer to be able to move my hand around because really 3D space is there for you to abuse. You don't have to have that. Oh, this is what I saw from the viewfinder. You know, some purists will say, well, you didn't you didn't compose the shot.
I'm actually of the same
You
school
never,
now.
you know,
Is that I think that
going over,
well,
going over.
I think that viewfinders are a bit overrated because I think it kind of restricts your creativity. Like most of my
Rico.
I'm just shooting with my Ricoh GR version 2, and the biggest benefit of having an LCD screen is that I could just shoot from super low angles, and also what I see is what I get. So often I'll shoot macro mode, and when I'm shooting, I'm actually focusing on the edges of my frame when I'm shooting. And not only that, but one thing I've been doing a lot is holding my camera up super, super high, shooting down, super, super low, shooting down. And like, I mean, obviously I could do that with a viewfinder, but it's just a little easier with a compact camera. And like you said, it's just easier to.
Yeah, I think a lot of the images that I've got that I like are from a perspective which actually integrates foreground and rearground, and shooting flat, sort of like just long.
Well, what camera is this?
Actually, my Olympus Mage.
Can you show the camera.
So it's a really nice little travel camera because it's so light.
It's a 35mm 2.8 lens.
Yeah. And it's just very quick. Like you can flick it open and it goes. I mean, there's plenty of people who use these. I miss my Contax T2.
What happened to your T2?
Got stolen in London.
Why would someone steal a Contax T2?
They've got taste. They've got taste.
Was it what color was it?
As the beautiful burnished silver crap color, which everyone has.
Wait, so wait a second.
Yeah.
People think that Ollie Lang or Oxy is the iPhone shooter. What are you doing with a 35mm film camera?
I'm shooting things I don't shoot with my mobile. So to shoot without a mobile and fresh film here for today.
Ooh, nice. What film you have in here?
I think I've got some superior Fujifilm 400, like it's cheap.
Yeah.
Just some cheap stuff I picked up back in Oz.
Uh-huh.
I was shooting portrait, but I couldn't find it in the time I had. You know what, I shoot things here which I kind of want to remember, because now when I shoot something with an iPhone, it tags like geolocation, time, I've got all this metadata. I actually love not having metadata on film, the way that it kind of forces you to come back to an image and go, what was this, what was I doing at this time, what was I feeling, So it forces you to be the metadata, essentially. And that's what I really love about film. And also, the context of a roll of film, that seeing that sequence, essentially ever since I saw that Magnum Contact sheet, I started to see the importance of sequence. Digital is so easy to shift things around.
Definitely.
Whereas I think going back and looking at your sequence, also like there'll be the last roll I shot, there'll be something from London, then there'll be something from Sydney. It's kind of like a timeline before timelines existed on social media. You know what I mean? It's quite nice to see. The aesthetic, you can go on. It's actually just a flash.
Do you think the aesthetic of film looks better than iPhone or digital? And also talk about the flash. Why do you like the flash?
I do. Let's never talk about a mobile phone flash.
Is mobile phone flash not good?
Not really. No one's really synced up a flash unit. I'd love it if you could sync up a flash unit. I mean, you see people do it nowadays. They're all holding out. One person's holding out the phone, taking the photo.
Yeah, and then they have
the other person's got all their lights out.
Don't they have the constant on LED?
They do.
Can they use that?
Yeah, but it's still not bright. You still just probably it's not changing the ISO that the camera setting. It's just changing the shutter speed, so you don't end up with blurry images. So it's good but grainy and grainy and noisy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I really love I love the simplicity of it. I've got a Yash car. I did have a Nikon 35 Ti, which died.
That's a great
don't
camera.
Buy film cameras.
Don't buy film cameras.
Don't buy film cameras.
If you were so, I don't think I asked you this. Why do you shoot with an iPhone? Why don't you shoot with your real Sony A7 whatever?
Even though it's quite a light camera, I do like it. It's still big. I love the way that the iPhone allows you to not think like a camera. I mean, that's really what got me into it. And then I really like the fact that you're invisible. Mostly. I mean, there was a time when I could walk up to somebody with an iPhone and just put it right in their face, and they wouldn't think, oh, that's a camera. And then as times changed, you've kind of moved away from that. Now people still allow you a bit of latitude in terms of what is this guy doing, what is he shooting, and that gives you maybe 2 or 3 extra shots. And to be honest, I'm I'm not like militant about getting the shot. Like if I miss a shot, okay, I missed it. But that 2 or 3 extra like shots it gives you might give you the chance to just correct framing or to just align something. So compositionally, you can produce something. At the same time, having people aware that you're taking a photograph can also create an interesting image.
Definitely.
You know, so there's a lot of different, for me also the interface. I really like it. I still use the same app.
Show us how to. Just show it to the.
Yeah. So basically.
So what app is this?
Let's see if I can get it.
Yeah. So what app is
this?
This
is Pro Camera 8.
Pro Camera.
So if I move the objects on the screen,
Yeah.
this is how I'm doing like reverse and everything.
Yeah.
Essentially, you have a light, and you have a focus.
Yep.
And both of those, you drop them on the screen. Now, that's not too new to some people, but in addition to those, you then get the ability to tap anywhere on the screen. It will take a photograph.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that those 3 things in combination, as well as the ability to adjust exposure with a slider,
Yep.
which is on the bottom there. So
Cool.
everything is like a thumb away. So the thumb just does... The thumb instinctively goes this, shoot.
Oh.
I'm shooting TIFF, so if I...
You can shoot TIFF on it.
Yeah, I shoot TIFF. I mean, I've got a massive amount of memory on there, so I shoot TIFF because I'm, it's like the raw mobile photography.
Is it really?
But I can shoot raw now. And that
Wait,
was one of
so,
those, that was one of those things which photographers are like,
Wait, so you could shoot raw?
yeah.
Okay, but you don't?
No, it's
Why?
just it's. I mean, files are like 60 megabytes for a mobile image.
60 megabytes?
Yeah, something like
Oh
that.
my god.
So I mean, my favorite images weren't shot on RAW. My favorite images were shot on JPEG, and I've got them saved somewhere, hoping that the world doesn't, suddenly forget what .jpg, CG or whatever it is.
I think JPEG is here to stay.
Of course, it's not going away. And the good thing is that with mobile, there's no expectation that you've shot RAW. There's no expectation that you've shot this, and it's not important in any way because you're sharing usually on a lower resolution than it could be. Now, I have printed some of my images about 1 meter wide from mobile.
So for us Americans, what does a meter look like?
It's about 1,000 yards. Yeah, it's huge. Maybe it's 3 foot actually.
Like
Bigger.
Yeah, like
It's about
how tall is a human?
it's about that wide.
Oh, that's pretty big.
That's really good because people watching the screen can't actually see. How
Okay.
big it is.
They could use their imagination. Okay, huh?
No, it's really big, and the idea behind the process was fractal upscale.
What?
I used a fractal upscaling process.
Fractal upscale. What is that?
And basically, it applies a fractal algorithm
Yep.
to increase the size of the image so that it doesn't just zoom.
What is the name of the program?
I have no idea. I got someone to do it for me.
Okay, anyways, yeah. Fractal upsizing, yeah.
Yeah, and then I could print it about 1 meter wide.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the image you get.
I think that's what Apple did when they made the Shot on iPhone campaign.
Yes.
They made massive billboards out of iPhone images.
Yeah, that's a good campaign. Yeah, you see it a lot in London, and they're doing it now with the iPhone 7, but it's all low light. Everyone's pushing low light images as a performance aspect.
So, going back to the philosophy of photography, are photos important in society?
Oh, they're integral.
Why? Why are photos important to
They're
society?
like the cave painting, modern day cave painting. It's how we tell stories. It's how we explain things faster and easier. I mean, words are ultimately our number one because it's easier to make a sound than it is to paint or draw an image. But to really fully and correctly explain something, sometimes that and to find combinations, an image is usually important.
It's interesting talking about communication. I think images are more universal to understand human emotions than words. Because I could talk to somebody here in Bangkok who doesn't speak English, only speaks Thai. I can show the image of Cindy, and they'll know what that is.
Yeah.
But I couldn't communicate in words. So if anything, in my ideal society is no words, just images.
And also, we're very judgmental people. Like
I'm
you're
not
judging me,
judgmental.
but these people are judging you, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
They're not judging me. But I can hear it now. But that's part of what we've evolved from. We judge things very quickly visually. We process things in several ways. We have a lower brain processing and a higher brain processing. And what's interesting to me is the lower brain processing, so the amygdala region, the lizard brain region,
Yep.
and how quickly that processes an image versus the higher brain where you actually have to stop and look at an image. That's partly what selfie school was about. Forcing people to go from kind of like a non-linear sort of processing to I guess what could be seen as much more involved, much more thoughtful. The way that the lower brain works is like flight and fright, so fight and fright.
Fight and flight.
Yeah, do that.
Fight, flight, or actually the third one's freeze.
I think it's something else, but anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, the idea being then that we react very quickly, and if you look at images on Instagram that do well, symmetry.
With symmetry.
Symmetry works well. Silhouettes, sunsets, or sunrises, but I say sunsets, and selfies, because we want to see faces. Silhouettes let us project images into a silhouette. It doesn't force us to understand it. It allows us to basically fill the image with the context. So the brain tries to create a narrative, and then of course symmetry is a symbol of health. So we would judge, like if you were going to eat an animal and then half of it was like deformed, you'd be like, I'm not going to eat that. Might make me sick.
Oh yeah. Well, not only that, but in terms of human beauty with faces that are more symmetrical are judged more beautiful.
Exactly. It's seen as a sign of health.
So all these are 4 S's, right?
Yeah, the 4 S's.
So say again.
Let's do symmetry.
Symmetry.
Silhouette. Sunsets.
Sunset.
Selfies. Because no one's really up to get the sunrise. They just shoot sunsets.
That's true. I can't.
I mean,
Why do people photograph their cappuccinos?
Because they're trying to connect with people. It's not. It's about reaching out. It's literally like, it's like a comfort thing to know that you're being observed. It really is. It's like I'm involved. I'm around. The idea behind sharing things is like, here I am. It's not asking for you to judge necessarily the image or the content. That's what selfies is. It's more like, everyone's afraid of death and what their life means and all these things.
Yeah.
It's just a chance to kind of like reach out and get a little sensation of, it's okay. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine.
I like that idea of sense of connection, because like going back to the whole point is that everyone in the world is just so lonely. I mean, I'm sure you know this in London. You're sitting on the tube. Everyone's just on their phones, right?
Yeah, the tube's an extreme example.
The tube as in the subway.
Yeah, the subway, yeah. I think some people, the British love having that spaces like, do not freaking talk to me, do not engage me. But in reality, they're very friendly people.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are on their phones on the tube talking to people. They're not on the tube, like, avoiding people, like holding them. They're not like that. Yeah. They're doing through that to another person somewhere else. Yeah. Like this. Hey, Eric. How are you? Coffee's good.
Nice.
They were sending me equipment. They were asking me my opinion because I review cameras.
I was really interested in this concept of you getting more into conceptual photography, but to me, as a skeptic and also as a simpleton, I look at conceptual photography, and the 99.9% of it seems like bullshit to me.
Of course. The reason it seems like bullshit is that, and this is the same for photography's reason as well, the process of creating versus the process of consuming images is totally different. So for me, if I go out and I do street photography, I just love being outside and seeing things and looking. But then when I look at the images, that's not the experience of being outside, seeing things and interacting. It's something else. I love cooking. And I love eating, but they're two completely different things. You know what I mean?
That's a really good point, yeah.
And I think this is what a lot of conceptual photography forgets, is the actual process of creation and then the process of consumption of that content.
Yeah.
Which is why Selfie School was designed to be something where the creation and the consumption happened like simultaneously.
Oh.
Because I think that people don't want the experience of looking at images; they want the experience of creating images.
Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. Everyone wants to take an image. People don't turn up to Bangkok and say, "Show me your photos." They say, they turn up here and they say, "Okay, show me how to take better photos." It's a thing which people want to do. It's an active thing. And I think that's so important. I think this is why people are probably watching this if they've got through this point.
Yeah.
Caffeine-fueled thing. you enjoy taking photos, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, you also need to accept that it's the images you take aren't as valuable as the experiences you get while taking them.
So personally, what kind of experiences do you get when you're making images?
I think it's a chance for me to not think. I find it's very zen-like. If you can be as cliche as that, it's very zen. Probably but it's just a chance to look, to see, to anticipate. I mean, I used to play a lot of sports, and then I stopped.
What would you like?
Everything was like soccer, football. Sorry, anyone from the UK. Ultimate frisbee. Basically, squash, martial arts, and it was all anticipation based. And so then when I had
What kind of martial arts?
It's like a kung fu thing.
Kung fu. Ah,
It's
interesting.
really good. I really enjoyed it.
Anticipation.
I never got into a fight. It was nice.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the anticipation that I enjoyed, I really enjoyed the timing, the positioning, the body positioning, and I think that translated from sport into photography. Because I couldn't do it anymore as a team sport. My team sport became shooting street. I just enjoyed photography.
Oh, that's cool.
And so because I couldn't run, basically I was recovering from a knee operation. I then became photography bound.
Oh, so for you,
If I hadn't had my knee surgery and everything, I may not have really taken up photography as much as I had. Yeah, because it was such an important part for me. And this is the thing, photography is personal. Why you do it, why other people do it, is always different. It's always personal, and that's great. That's what I love about it. It's always somebody else's story that can come into.
oh
Why do
no.
you take photos?
So I'm actually really glad you asked me. Well, I'll share. In the beginning, for me, photography is an artistic outlet. Then it became some sort of weird game where it's more about a competition and trying to one up other people. Or hey, look at me, world! I'm an artist too, and like me because I'm sure it's because some sort of like self-confidence issues that I had that I was crowdsourcing my self-esteem essentially.
Yeah.
So I was unfortunately setting my self-confidence and my self-worth based on how many likes or followers or whatever I got from the rest of the world. Now, I think I've reached some sort of like enlightenment in my photography where, for me, ultimately, it's a meditation on life and death.
Okay. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, one day we're all going to die.
Oh.
Whenever I make an image of my loved ones, especially like my mom or Cindy, assuming I don't get hit by a train or something, my mom's gonna die before I do.
That's the logical sequence.
That's the logical sequence. It's not necessarily true, but whenever I'm spending time with my mom taking photos of her, I'm almost thinking that one day at her funeral, I'll share these photos with other people.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit macabre or a little bit like kind of like scary to think about that. But the reason I like that is that it makes me appreciate the time I have with them. So for example, I was traveling with my mom, Cindy's mom, and Cindy. So I was traveling with Cindy, my mom, and her family. And half the time I'm just dicking around on my phone. And then, I kind of had an aha moment. If this was the last time I could see my mom, would I waste 5 minutes looking at my phone about other people and their lives? And also it's the joy of life. So the main reason I photograph Cindy is to remind myself of the joy that I have being alive and sharing my life with Cindy. And if I have one goal with my photography, it's to encourage other people to better document their loved ones or their life, to better appreciate their life and to appreciate their loved ones.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's exactly what I enjoy about teaching is that most of the people I teach are not going to go out and shoot street in the end. They're going to take those skills. Well, they might hone them while shooting street, but they're going to use those skills to shoot friends and family. They're going to create higher quality images to trigger memories, to communicate the feelings that they have towards people. It's not about being an amazing street photographer. It's not about being, recognized on social media. It's about recognizing when and what you want to shoot, because the option is always there these days. So really, it's about a value judgment, like you were saying just before. Would I use this device to look at other people's lives, or am I going to use it to engage more deeply with my own?
Dude, Ollie, you're a scholar, poet, and great educator. I think I don't know many photographers who are good educators, and you're giving me like photography / conceptual / life philosophy 101. I'm like soaking it all up.
It's
Yeah,
not even 9 o'clock.
it's not even 9 o'clock.
It's gonna be a good day.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really good day. But yeah, like it's to me, it really inspires me how you have this passion or this enthusiasm for sharing your the way you see the world in terms of image making and also personal meaning. Because so many photographers never ask these important philosophical questions, and they are not interested in sharing that with other people. Because I'm the same. Is that at the end of the day, I'm less interested in making images. I'm more interested in helping empower other people to make images.
Okay.
And obviously, like if I want to teach, I need to be a good photographer, so I go out and I make good photos. But like ultimately, it's about empowering other people. Like to think about the impact you had at the Tate, like to make people think about identity, images, the decisive stream. Like these are such important concepts. I'm sure a lot of these guys still watching are. And to conclude, where can people follow you or learn more about you?
Just catch me on Instagram. Ogsy.
Open up your Instagrams.
Okay, we can do this.
So, how do you spell Ogsy?
OGGSIE.
OGGSIE. Why are you Ogsy?
Because there was like a couple of Ollie Lanes already on the net. There you are.
OGGSIE. Ooh, nice. And do you have a website? Or
Yeah.
are you just on the grams?
It's just Ogsy.com.
Ogsy.com. Click Ogsy.com, see what it looks like.
Oh, I don't know.
Why?
I don't even know this stuff.
Oh, leaving Instagram. Oh, stupid Instagram. They don't want you to leave the platform.
No, I think they're just doing that so you don't have like Hispanic sites.
Oh, okay. Oh, really? Okay, okay.
That's
That's pretty cool.
I think I've got any photos up. Which is good.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
People see too many images.
Too
Stop
many
looking.
images. Stop looking at images. Read some text. I've been reading Friedrich Nietzsche.
Why?
He's like Kanye West in terms of self-empowerment, but like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Have you read Nietzsche?
No, I have read a few bits.
I went on wikiquote.org and I just read his quotes because it's better than reading his books. Dude, he's like the ultimate self-empower. He's like, the will to live is the driving force of humanity. And one thing I learned yesterday was, don't just essentially swallow or follow the knowledge of philosophers who came before. Seek the same truth that they sought with the same zest for life. I'm like, that's so practical.
Yeah.
Same with photography. It's like,
Yeah.
don't just be like, oh, Cartier-Bresson, you're the god. One day I hope to be you. It's like, no, like, find the same inspiration that Cartier-Bresson had, but find it out your own way.
Exactly. I think that's a very good way of sort of saying what I was saying.
Okay. All right, Oggs, we're going to have some more coffee.
Yeah.
So this is the first inaugural episode of The Double Shot.
3 hours talking.